Hey folks, my guest today is Sam Senior. He's the co-founder and CEO of Testbox. Originally from regional Australia, he studied software engineering and economics at university, where he met his co-founder Peter. He left Bain after 6 years as a senior manager in San Francisco to build the future of software buying. He now lives in Boulder, Colorado. Sam, you ready to take us to the top?
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me, Nathan.
You bet, man. So, what does this mean? The future of software buying?
Well, I think previously everyone has talked about having an enterprise sales led approach. Now people are talking about a product led approach to growth and selling software. I think the future is actually customer led. So, meeting the customer and how they want to buy software, the process they want to take, and giving them a true hands on experience. And so, we've basically built an app that allows people to test and compare enterprise software before they buy without needing to talk to a salesperson, with a hands on experience, with real data in there and all the use case configured so they can do a side-by-side comparison within minutes instead of doing a month-long sales process.
Sam, how does that work? It sounds too good to be true. Someone listening right now that wants to try Salesforce is not going to let you try it unless you get on a sales call and all this stuff. Have you pirated their software or something and give everyone access? How do you do this?
So we've been very intentional in starting with just one software category to prove our value. So we started in the customer support help desk space. And we've actually gone out and built partnerships with each of the major vendors. So we've got about 6 on the platform at the moment, 3 more in discussion, but we've got more than 50% of the market share of the top platforms already partnered and integrated with us.
And how do you define market share? So otherwise you wouldn't know how, if you have...
In terms of revenue or users, really either is fine. I think if you take revenue, for example, like Zendesk in the help desk space has 20+% of the market share. They're actually one of our partners that's integrated into Testbox.
Okay. And what about Freshworks?
Yep, integrated.
Okay.
And HubSpot Service Hub and a few others as well.
So what do you give Zendesk and Freshworks to let them do this? They want people going through their funnel, obviously.
So yes and no. I think they understand that people don't always want to go direct and go through an AE BDR process. Instead, they want to go self-serve and hands-on. We're basically taking that self-serve approach and supercharging it in a way that no one else has been able to do by getting it more real life, like it's already been implemented for that end user. So we're actually a new lead generation source for them.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah, well, it's actually funny. Dixa's interview is next week.
Nice.
Girish came on before their IPO with Freshdesk, and Brian Halligan came on pre-IPO from HubSpot. So you also have Help Scout, Trengo, and that crew as well. So this is cool. Yeah. So I love how you're gonna sort of focus on a niche here and dominate the niche. Why customer support software though? Why start there?
So my co-founder and I actually about 10 or 11 years ago worked as IT help desk agents. So we just understood that space really well, having used these types of software before and understand the use cases that really matter. But it all got kind of coalesced around this experience actually, where someone close to me had previously bought help desk software and I watched how painful that experience was. And I basically interviewed her the entire time to understand what the major pain points were and how we could make it better. So those two experiences together said, let's start there. Plus, it's a hugely growing market that's like 10.5 billion today, growing at 10+%, and it's getting more and more important. So it's also a good niche for that reason.
Mm-hmm. Tell me more about growth. So you got going, you just raised some capital. We'll come back to that in a second, but you're onboarding. There's this 3-step process. First is introduce yourself. What are people mainly picking in the industry drop down? Are you seeing concentration around B2C tech or B2B technology or something else?
So that's primarily where we focused is B2B tech and then e-commerce, then fintech.
What do you see signups? What market are they in? Those 3?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Got it. Cool. And then, so I'm going through it now. I love asking these questions. Right. So you're basically saying what products do you want to test? I'm going to click HubSpot and Zendesk, looking for another solution. So you're basically doing user generated content here. People start typing in something and it's like a new customer support tool that's taking off. You should be aware of it because people will start typing it, right?
Exactly right. And so we're basically trying to collate all that information so that we can say, great, we've had this many more people asking for this platform. Let me go build that partnership and get them integrated.
All right. Talk money to me. When you give HubSpot a new customer, it's a hot, probably the hottest lead they can possibly get. You must have some economic upside here.
Yeah, exactly. So with HubSpot, it's 20% of total contract value. So not just first year, but actually the entire contract value that we get paid.
What if you help the customer sign up on HubSpot for $100 a month? HubSpot customer success managers work with them for 12 months and expand them to $1,000 a month. Do you get the expansion revenue too? 20% on that?
Yep.
Okay. So you have to trust on HubSpot and Zendesk and Freshworks reporting back to you accurate expansion revenue on accounts that you help them land.
Yeah, exactly. But that's part of the partnership terms in terms of terms and conditions, legal, all that sort of goodness.
Super interesting. Okay. So you're effectively a sales rep for them, but running a different motion.
But yes, but it's fully productized.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, so when did you guys launch the business? When did you write the first line of code?
The first line of code was written just over a year ago, but we launched in sort of a public beta in middle of June. So only a few months ago now.
And what numbers do you care about right now? Like wait list size? Like tell me what you care about.
I think there's two major things for us. Because we're essentially building a marketplace, we need to be building both sides of that. So the big one of just like continuing to build partnerships really matters. So I'm trying to pick up a new partnership every month at the moment. So we have that supply side of the market. And then on demand side, it really is just like how many signups can we be generating on a weekly, monthly basis? And then once they're in, how quickly can we get them to a decision? Is it going to take 3 months like it does today? Or is it going to be like a recent converted customer where it took them 2 weeks? And that's a significantly better process than they go through at the moment.
So we're not done with October yet, so I can't ask you for October numbers, but in September, how many total new signups?
So it's less than 10. I think we're at like sort of 8, that sort of number. So it's still small, but it's continuing to grow every single month.
Got it. And how many customers have you actually there are now paying on one of your 6, or 9 partners?
Yep. So we've only closed one deal so far, but that's
how did that feel?
It's been a couple of months.
That must have been amazing. How'd that feel?
Yeah, it felt pretty incredible. There was a lot of jumping up and down. But I think importantly at the moment, it's not just we've had a 100-person company use our platform, but we've also had a 100,000-person company use our platform. So at the moment, there's a company that's 100,000 sort of FTEs using Testbox to make a decision on a new platform. So we're in this interesting phase where we've just been trying to build awareness, and like we're just starting to see real elevation on size of company, how quick, and number of people coming into Testbox.
What prevents you from arbitraging or basically, taking up like HubSpot, like top keyword tools? Like you can start basically paying for ad space or running SEO to get those leads before HubSpot does. I imagine there's something in the partnership agreement that prevents that.
No, there isn't actually. It's just incredibly expensive. I think if you look at the cost for these sorts of ads, you're talking at least $120, $150 for some of these ads on those keywords. And then that just conversion on that, when you think about the percentage that we're taking, it doesn't really work out economics wise.
What about like a project SEO play though, right? HubSpot versus Zendesk. Yeah. HubSpot's number 1, G2's number 2, StackShare's number 3. I mean, you could run a playbook there and arbitrage.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're doing at the moment.
So does HubSpot like that? If you start outranking them, are they cool with that?
Yeah, that isn't a competitive term in our agreements with them.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Do you give them like a ROFR in the partnership agreement where if you ever want to sell or exit, they have right of first refusal on exit price?
Not at the moment. Well, we'll see how that goes in the future. But I think like right now, that's our focus really is just like, let's keep being that amazing lead generation platform for them.
Okay. Tell me more about economics. You're just getting going here. How much have you guys spent to date on getting the MVP live?
Yeah, so we've probably spent something like $700,000 to get the MVP live, and we raised 2.7. And that MVP live is so much of it's like really deep infrastructure and orchestration of all these different services and getting them to spin up really quickly. That's like the more challenging piece. We haven't really spent any money on marketing yet, which is why the numbers are kind of on the lower side at the moment.
Mm-hmm. The 2.7 was raised this year?
Yeah, at the start of the year, basically.
Pre-seed. Okay. And it's 2 of you guys, right? Do you split equity 50-50?
No.
It's okay. That's a tough conversation. Tell me about that. How'd you guys sort of work that out?
Yeah, I think, so my friend Peter and I have known each other for 11 years now. It was actually a relatively easy conversation for the 2 of us to go through. We realized that, look, a lot of the drive behind Testbox was driven by me when it comes to like the idea and the plan is sort of, we talked about like, is this the 10, 15, 20 year company for me? Yeah, it probably is. For him, he's like obviously committed for the next 5 years at least, but he's like, I don't know if I want to do this for 20 years. But, and he's like, I don't think I'm going to be the one leading all of our really in-depth engineering stuff long-term. I want to be more of the people management piece. So like, as we thought about our roles in the company over time, we saw that they're going to change and develop and realize that actually there was initially anyway, we thought that like my sort of level of commitment and the inputs that I was having into the business at the time were at that higher value.
All right. Come on. You got to translate this into numbers. You're talking like, so you own 60%, 80%. How big is the difference?
It's sort of 2/3, 1/3.
Okay. Fair. Got it. So call it 66 to you, 33 to him, but now you're both diluted a little bit because you raised some pre-seed. I imagine you did a safe.
Yes.
Got it. How'd you obviously at your stage, it's not like a valuation multiple you're raising it. It's really what story can you tell and do people believe that you can execute on the story? So
Yeah.
you tell a great story. It makes clear sense to me here. And just, 13 minutes in, what cap were you able to raise at?
Is a post of 12.
Okay. Did that feel fair to you?
Yeah, it felt reasonable. Like we could have probably pushed to get to 13, but I think at the time we had a very limited prototype and a really great story.
Mm-hmm.
And a few partnerships basically built out. And we'd spent 2 months working on the product at that point, or the company. So we're so early in our journey that we're like, okay, that's fine. This is what we need just to move forward to the next stage.
Mm-hmm. Is there a GPT-3 component of this?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
So all of the data that we actually create for our end users, we customize for them. So if you say you're a B2B company or you're an e-commerce or whatever, we'll put different data into the platform based on what you tell us about you. And so we use the GPT-3 engine to be able to customize that data.
Interesting. Okay. Signal Fire on First Minute Capital were the main folks putting up the 2.7 million. How do you make sure they work their butt off for you? I'm sure you had a bunch of term sheets. You want to make sure they're value add VCs. Yeah. How do you make sure you activate them to really help you build the business? Yeah,
I've been incredibly impressed by Signal Fire actually. And I would say 10 out of 10 recommend to anyone who's interested in raising capital. They turn up whenever we ask them to on absolutely anything. I could text Elaine, our board member, and she'll respond to me in minutes, jump on the phone whenever. And they have, every time we've had a hurdle, they've gone and helped us figure it out. So I lean on them pretty aggressively. I think a big thing is that we're very transparent with them. And that has allowed us to build a really strong relationship, which I think has been phenomenal. And when it comes to First Minute, I reach out to them at least once a month and say, here are the 3 things I need from you. Go make that happen. And they've also been delivering, which has been pretty phenomenal.
Tell me last thing that Signal Fire did for you, if you can be specific.
Yeah, so we were having some interesting challenges with the security protocols that Zendesk has on their platform. Basically, it was creating some bot detection issues. And so they actually went straight to the chief of security at Zendesk and help us resolve that and work through their machine learning algorithm to basically approve everything we were doing.
Unbelievable. There you guys have it. Signal Fire and Elaine doing a nice job here for Sam, which we love hearing. Okay, cool. So now let me ask you a question. Did you have is this sort of your first foray into startups? You came from Bain, or have you already sort of gone through the mill already?
No, this is the first full on go. Peter and I dabbled a little bit about 10 years ago or so together and made a little bit of money to pay rent, but nothing that was our serious full-time thing that we're tackling.
I see. Okay, cool. Well, you got your first customer landed, and which company did they end up buying from out of your 6 partners?
So it was Zendesk, and it was a company called Profitwell, who I think you've spoken to before in your podcast.
Yep. That's great. Okay, so Profitwell bought Zendesk, and so what are they now paying Zendesk per month? And then break me down economics.
Yeah, so we got 15 to 20% of that deal, and they bought something like 10 licenses. So if you look at the Zendesk pricing online, that ranges somewhere between $50 to $80 per seat per month.
Okay. So let's just assume it's on the low end. So it's $500 per month. You're making 20% of that. So you get about $100 per month as long as Profitwell stays active.
Yeah, something in that range.
Will Zendesk pay you upfront for the full year? So $1,200, or they pay you as Profitwell pays?
So they will pay us with Zendesk. It is on annual contract value plus expansion. Okay. So we get the upfront annual contract value. Then anything that increases, we get paid later on.
Very cool. Okay, so you basically got a check from around $1,200 from Zendesk, and now you can keep scaling.
Yep.
Very interesting. Okay, cool. Yeah, big fans of PC and Profitwell and everything they're building over there. So cool. Okay, got it. So you have your first $1,200 in ARR. You're going to keep scaling here. What's the thing you're actually building towards, right? This is a Trojan horse to what in 2024?
2024 is pretty close. I've probably got 15 years of product in my head at the moment. But if we take the next 3 to 4 years, basically to be able to say, look, if you're trying to buy enterprise software, the first place you go to is testbox.com. You say, I'm looking for these 3 or 4 vendors. Let me get my hands on. And it shouldn't just be in customer support, but basically all of the sales ops tools, all the marketing tools, or whatever, basically come to Testbox, and then you can make the best decision in a few weeks rather than many months.
Sam, you guys made your first hire yet, or just still you and Peter?
No, we're at 10 people already.
Oh, wow. How many engineers?
It is 5 engineers.
Okay, got it. So if I ask you all in headcount expenses right now, how much are you spending just on headcount per month?
About $100K.
Does that make you nervous, or you have plenty of runway? It's not worried.
Plenty of runway, not a problem.
Yeah, interesting. Anything else taking up a bunch of money that wouldn't be obvious in a SaaS business, or no, pretty standard?
Pretty standard at the moment. As I said, we haven't really focused too much on the marketing piece. We're really importantly, we need to build the supply side of the market with the integrations because before we become valuable for people. And so we've just been really focusing there with our dollars.
Guys, crazy story. If you want to avoid all those marketing calls, sales reps, all that jazz, go test out testbox.com. Sam, before we wrap up here, let's jump into the famous five. Number one, what's your favorite business book?
I really like Radical Candor.
Number two, is there a CEO you're following or studying?
I think Bill HubSpot.
Yep. Number three, what's your favorite online tool for building Testbox besides GPT-3 and besides any of the ones you're partnered with?
GPT-3 is the one that I wrote code for specifically. So I think the team is loving AWS and writing with Charles Apps on AWS.
Number four, how many hours of sleep do you get every night?
8.
Okay. And situation, married, single, kiddos?
Partnered, not married, no children yet.
And how old are you, Sam?
I'm 29.
29. Last question. What's something you wish you knew when you were 20?
The value of therapy.
Who are you using now? How did you find your therapist?
I connected with, someone I was close to, had a phenomenal therapist, and she basically helped me find like 5 or 6 people to go and interview. And then I went through that process and have a phenomenal therapist called Andrea Dindinger. She's in San Francisco. Phenomenal.
How do you, like, a lot of founders, they hear that this is like, it's really valuable, but they don't even know how to use a therapist. Like, what can you, without being like revealing personal stuff, I mean, what does a conversation with your therapist sound like? What do you talk about?
Yeah, so we started really like checking in with where I am at emotionally and ensuring I use emotional feeling words rather than just thinking words, which I kind of do most of the time, and then use that to say, okay, what are the things that are really affecting me in some way and go deep on that. I think we try to get a balance between acute issues, so what's happening in the moment, and then also chronic issues, like what's been the stuff that's I've been challenged on for the last 10, 15 years. How do we continue to work on those on an ongoing basis? I think importantly, a really good therapist will help guide you and create some structure around this rather than allowing you to just sort of flounder your way through.
Guys, Sam Senior with Testbox. If you want to test customer support software without sitting on sales calls, test them out. They just landed their first customer, which means they help someone buy customer service software. Zendesk specifically, they make $1,200 a year on that. They're off to the races, raised $2.7 million at a $12 million cap as they get going here. Sam with owning, call it 2/3 of the equity because he sees really a long-term play here into many other product lines. Team of 10 right now, 5 engineers as he looks to scale the business. Sam, thanks for taking us to the top.
Thanks, Nathan.
One more thing before you go. We have a brand new show every Thursday at 1 p.m. Central. It's called Shark Tank for SaaS. We call it Deal or Bust. One founder comes on, 3 hungry buyers. They try and do a deal live, and the founder shares back-end dashboards, their expenses, their revenue, ARPU, CAC, LTV, you name it, they share it. And the buyers try and make a deal live. It is fun to watch every Thursday, 1 p.m. Central. Additionally, remember, these recorded founder interviews go live. We release them here on YouTube every day at 2 p.m. Central. To make sure you don't miss any of that, make sure you click the subscribe button below here on YouTube, the big red button, and then click the little bell notification to make sure you get notifications when we do go live. I wouldn't want you to miss breaking news in the SaaS world, whether it's an acquisition, a big fundraise, a big sale, a big profitability statement, or something else. I don't want you to miss it. Additionally, if you want to take this conversation deeper and further, we have by far the largest private Slack community for B2B SaaS founders. You want to get in there. We've probably talked about your tool if you're running a company or your firm if you're investing. You can go in there and quickly search and see what people are saying. Sign up for that at nathanlatka.com/Slack. In the meantime, I'm hanging out with you here on YouTube. I'll be in the comments for the next 30 minutes. Feel free to let me know what you thought about this episode. And if you enjoyed it, click the thumbs up. We get a lot of haters that are mad at how aggressive I am on these shows, but I do it so that we can all learn. We have to counter those people. We got to push them away. Click the thumbs up below to counter them and know that I appreciate your guys' support. All right, I'll be in the comments. See ya.